People, Deluded, I'm back again. Thank you very much for tuning back in. I'm on my lunch break and I've got nothing better to talk about or do than to share some opinions with you guys. So we might as well go through a couple of notes that I have. First and foremost, Mesut Ozil once again has been linked with a move away from this club. Once again, a loan spell. Once again, Fenerbahçe. Now, I don't know if there's any truth in them Fenerbahçe rumours, admittedly, people, because if I'm completely honest with you, it's very easy to fabricate that story. Obviously, Mesut Ozil is of Turkish heritage and has strong Turkish roots. Obviously, he was slated for it, but the whole, meeting people in Turkey and whatnot, the politicians and that, don't want to harp on about that. He's never forgotten his roots. He is very much a proud Turkish person, or person of Turkish descent, despite obviously going and playing for Germany at international level for whatever decision that was for. He's obviously married to a Turkish woman, I believe. He was I could be wrong, but a prominent kind of celebrity there. So for obvious reasons, these stories can be invented on top of the fact that clearly the club, if not necessarily Emre, even though I believe he does, the club want to move him on, age, wages, etc. And obviously Mesut Ozil turns 31 next week, and obviously since he's been here, I don't think he's been bad, but he hasn't quite cut the mustard generally, and the team weren't built around him and all of these things. But either way, we're past the Mesut Ozil stage. I do think to a degree he's being given a rough deal based on this season, purely because of, regardless of if you think he's good enough here or not, he's only played 71 minutes or so in the league, and he was decent in that duration against Watford. And to be honest, I believe that to a degree it should be a clean slate. He's not being given real chance to really show that he's on board. I believe we can utilise him at least until January in some form. I'm not saying he needs to be in the team week in, week out, but also respect Emre's decision. Now, it does look like the club is resigned to just get him off the wages. I don't know how much wages Fenerbahçe would be prepared to take on, because signing Mesut Ozil is going to be a risky and an expensive deal for any club. He's going to only decline as a footballer. He's turning 31 next week, like I said. He's not going to bring you back if he was to sign him permanently, any real transfer value or anything like that. The outlay is going to be expensive, if not necessarily wages, obviously sporting rights and all of them sort of things that us football fans don't need to worry about. It's going to be an expensive one. Who signs Mesut Ozil? I don't know, people. For me, I'm prepared to use him until January, revisit that subject in January, potentially to the end of the season, because who is going to get him? You're just hoping that he's not played so much and he's frustrated so much with the situation, his agent forces the move, or Mesut Ozil forces the move, in which Ozil is a professional footballer and time is running out in terms of how many years he's got left. I doubt he wants to sit on the bench. I doubt he's a money grabber either, but let's be honest, 300 plus a week, you're not really needing to force the issue. He's comfortable in London, he's got his mandem and that. It is what it is. Part of me does think, although I believe it's between the club, I do think it's above Emre's head to a degree in terms of what we're doing with Ozil. A part of me also believes that Emre, it's a game of chicken between Emre and Ozil. Is Ozil's camp potentially waiting to see if Emre gets the clip and whatnot? Obviously, if Emre's still here, because he has got an extension but it hasn't been signed yet, what happens with Ozil? So I do think it's a bit of stick and twist in that regards, people. Moving on, we've also got some other news. Apparently you want to make Dani Ceballos' move permanently, now a permanent one, and I'm all for that. Now, do I think Ceballos has played blinders and shown what he can do? No, I believe there's a lot more to come. But personally, I think Ceballos is decent. In terms of the creative skill set, or cams, or who Emre sees as creative midfielders, we've only got Mesut Ozil, Ceballos and Joe Willock. Joe Willock plays in that role, even though I believe we should be trying to groom him to play in the pivot, people. Apologies, there's a school kids walking up and down. But so Ceballos gives us that creativity, gives us an option of if we can play two creative midfielders, if we can build a side around him. I think we should look to sign him permanently. For me, I believe he's going to go back to Madrid, personally. It all depends on Zidane's future. Clearly, him and Zidane, it might change, but they weren't necessarily seeing eye to eye and whatnot. If a new manager comes in, he wants to make it at Madrid. Does he go and try and force his hand? Obviously, Arsenal, we need to kind of get a move on, because if he starts playing even better form, it makes it difficult for us potentially to sign him if a bidding war happens. Obviously, he's 23. If we did sign him permanently, there's a resale value. There's the opportunity to build the side, not just around him, but young Joe, Torreira, Guendouzi, the Holdings, the Tierney's, the Salibas to come. People in their Sakas and Martinelli's and the Nelsons, people that are in their early teens to mid-20s, sort of a good squad to kind of move forward with and build around. I know Arsenal fans, we've been here in terms of projects and building, but I'm all for that. I'm all for keeping Ceballos. If we are going to keep Dani Ceballos, I do think we could deal with a couple more creative players in our team. but it leads me to think, what's our planning? We've been linked with Aouar of Lyon. I think he's not really played amazing this season, but he's decent. Would we potentially go for him? I don't know. Manchester City's big fans of him. Kai Havertz, someone that looks up to Mesut Ozil and is always linked with Arsenal. Are we going to go to him for him? Potentially looks like he's going to Bayern Munich. I don't know that. That's just based on what I'm seeing. I can't say this guy's name, but if you remember England's under-21s campaign, I'm so sure he played for Holland. He's ironically like Mesut Ozil. He's of Turkish descent and plays for another nation. He's of Dutch and Turkish descent. Okan Koku, I cannot say his name. Apologies for getting his name wrong. My Turkish followers and whatnot help me out. But he plays for Feyenoord. I'm sure he's 18 years of age. I'm sure he's played against England at youth level before people. And he's a decent player technically. Still to grow. I don't think he has that many goals and assists. Have I got it written down? He's got 2 assists this season. I'm not sure for his goals, people. Apparently they want 20 million. And he's one of them in the Eredivisie that you're looking at as potentially can they move on. You're looking at him. You're looking at Baidu. I believe in the Europa League, Calvin Steggs, based on game day 1. Obviously, Daniel Marlon. There's a couple of good players in Holland still domestically. There's definitely a lot abroad, and you've got Jadon Braaf of Manchester City, who's a lovely winger. I know about the player. I'm not watching him religiously. I think he's good technically. I think he's got decent passing range. I do think there's several levels he can go up. I do like his body position and the angles he makes. He is a very good technically based footballer, and for 20 million, it's not the biggest of outlay. Admittedly, there'll be some other targets I'll look at, like Aouar, purely because I'm watching him more, and I'm a bit biased, people. But I'm all for it. I do think if you're looking at it, potentially, yeah, there's a case for another centre half. Kolasinac and Tierney seem to hold down the left-hand space. Can we sign another right back? I know Saliba can play centre half and right back, and we can do that next season, but could we sign another right back to compete with Bellerin? I personally would like another composing sort of box-to-box midfielder that wins the ball and has got a bit about him on the ball. I'm not saying he needs to be expansive, but I just feel if we can sign another sort of tenacious man, that's what I would be on, people. So we'll have to see, but creative midfielders or players that have a bit more creative skill set or look to break the lines is a priority for me in the summer. If we can do it in January, then I'm all for it, people, but we all know business is hard to do. Moving away from that, Yashin Adli, he plays for, obviously he's at Bordeaux now, formerly of PSG. Ironically, he was going to join Arsenal once upon a time, and one would wonder what would have been. He was part of a great French side, man. It doesn't matter if it's him, if it's Gahori, if it's Claudio Gomez, who's on loan at PSV, I believe, from City. Jadon Braaf, who I've just spoken about. There's a lot of Dutch and French players about people in particular, but the French players in Gahori, in Kakare, in that Cherchy lad at Lyon. There's bare sick French players, and there's a couple that are in Yashin Adli's age group that have been going on to do decent things. He's obviously essential. If he was to describe him, I'd say he can play in the 10, he can play in a deeper midfield role, and he can do a job as sort of an inverted winger sort of guy, people, in which you've seen him do for Bordeaux. I saw him who did he get a brace against? He got a brace against Amiens, I believe. He's made 6 appearances or something like that. And I'm tracking his progress, because although Arsenal missed out on him and he chose not to, he's someone I'm looking at, people, as well, to possibly come and add creativity into the team. We obviously know all about him as well, clearly. There's a lot of young French players, and keeping on with the French theme, I was actually going to do this in a separate vid, but Guendouzi's obviously been named Arsenal Player of the Month. It's well deserved, people. I mean, he played well against Spurs, he drove us against Villa, he was decent in the Bournemouth game. There's another game I'm missing out. He was alright against Burnley. Forgive me if I'm wrong. I could be wrong about all of this happening in September. He played alright against United, as did United's McTominay. And for all his frustrations, people can say we're not necessarily the best defensively. Gives the ball away in key areas. I like Guendouzi. It doesn't matter if it's Guendouzi, Nelson, Saka, all of these players. I'm prepared to put up with some of their frustrations and the fact that they're still learning and making the same mistakes, because we've seen it for more experienced players, and these young players, for me, they've got the ability. They obviously give you hope, but it's the way they take to it. Saka's not scared away from home at Old Trafford. Guendouzi, he's always trying to G up the team and stuff like that, and all these sort of things, and he's way more inexperienced than a lot of players, and people forget that he's a 20-year-old. Obviously, he needs to improve, but it's a testament to him, because when you look at him, he's barely played career football, and he's taken to it, and he's one of the first names on the team sheet right now. I think the next step for him is obviously to improve defensively and to really define what sort of midfielder you want to be. As like a lot of these midfielders, it's like Paul Pogba, he can do a lot of things, but what specific midfielder is he? I have my opinion, you have yours. The Spurs have just signed Ndombele. What sort of specific midfield role are you? You can play many, but what are you specifically? And then you deviate. Guendouzi, for me, shown he can be box to box. I think with his skill set, he can be a deep lying playmaker. Obviously, probably, I'm not saying he needs to get goals and assists, but he probably can do a bit more in that department slightly because he gets into them roles. I think he's someone, you're looking at him, you're looking at Joe, if not necessarily wearing the captain's armband in the future, they're of a certain ilk, people. You can tell they relish it, they're brave, and I've got time for these young players who are not scared, man. I'm prepared to take their mistakes and their odd bad games and their frustrations. Don't get me wrong, Guendouzi frustrates me, but I love him, people. I really like Guendouzi. He deserves Player of the Month. Obviously, he's been bigged up recently by Arsene Wenger as well. So has Joe and obviously Nelson, 2 players he previously managed. I really think Saka and Guendouzi, I think Wenger would have loved to have managed them. I mean, Guendouzi would have loved to have managed Guendouzi, people. But yeah, we've been linked with a couple of names and whatnot. So it's just a video of something of nothing, really. There's nothing more for me to add on that point, people. So I'm going to get out of here, man. People, DG, thank you for watching as I've been out and about.